like people take lunch breaks together, or like couples go out for dinner or stuff like that, or it's like it's like we're all together alone. We just sit there and look at our phones together.
100%. 100%. And it's like, it's still a form of bonding. It's bonding while you're separating yourself. It's so weird.
Two things. I've noticed that because being on Twitter, it's a cesspool, but it is actually interesting in a few ways. And one way is you interact with people much younger than you. So every generation every other generation under us, because we're basically the same X-gen, they don't have, like we used to go out. It was like, fuck off outside as a kid. And you'd have to pick up on physical cues. So you would have to like, it's not just what people say, it's how they say it, it's what they're doing while they say it, it's what they're doing before they say it, what they do after they're saying it, like all of the physical cues that we had to learn to read and pick up on. Like everyone that's grown up with devices that have interacted with each other only or primarily through devices are lacking a lot of those skills. So someone says to them X, Y, and Z, and it's very clearly not true from their actions or their tone, or like something on the back, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and go, pay attention here. Something's not right with this scenario.
Yeah,
don't seem to have that skill, which is really interesting.
It's 100%, and look, it's all part of the disembodiment. It's just what technology does. It disembodies, and it allows us to. It actually opens us up to this idea that you can have a relationship with a disembodied spirit. Like that's now completely normal. I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, as much as this is dark and concerning and all that kind of stuff, and this pattern is going to play out in a very negative way in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
I genuinely would not be surprised if we start seeing actual, and I mean this, actual human sacrifice. Even in the West.
Well, I mean, how are trans kids not that?
Yeah.
Really? Like, we're already seeing that.
Yeah.
Like, you've got parents sterilizing their own kids and, like...
giving them up to an idea of this...
Yeah, basically. And, like, they have to be cutting it. Like, just the puberty blocker thing. Like, you see pictures. I've seen... Like, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone at all ever, but I've seen pictures of adults with child-sized genitals because of puberty blockers. Like it's crazy. And they're not just halting puberty; you're halting brain development. So it's like they're sacrificing their own kids in a number of ways. And I was watching something the other day where some, like, Mallory Millett, Kate Millett's sister, was saying from a couple of years after Roe v. Wade to whenever she did the video talk, which was in the last decade, a billion people, there have been a billion people that have collectively died throughout historical wars. From a couple of years after Roe v. Wade till a couple of years ago, 1.5 billion babies have been aborted.
Look, I tried to look this up, like, for work the other day when I was trying to present some stats and all that kind of stuff. And the actual abortion rates are really hard to find. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that they're actively suppressed.
But they don't want to leak information. Like, that was the thing that changed my mind about abortion when I found out that it's...
the sheer numbers.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, that's
the
not...
sheer numbers. Yeah. And it hits the marginalised the most.
Yeah.
The biggest killer of Indigenous people in Australia isn't white men in blue shirts. It's Indigenous mothers. Well, more accurately, and here's something that I genuinely 100% believe this is true. Like, it's easy to dismissive to say, like, oh, it's the women. It's like, no, those women, I am sure the vast majority of them would have those children if the men stayed with them.
Yeah.
You have all these men just acting like cads, treating these women like shit, treating them like sex objects, shagging them, and it's like, no, I'm not going to hang around you and look after a kid.
Yeah.
So these women really do kind of like go, oh well, So I suppose I should re-articulate it in future articles. Say, that the biggest killers of Indigenous people is
parents.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
I get accused of that a lot. Like you're blaming women for all of this stuff, and it's like I get that that's how it comes across, but really there's this taboo about women are a victims thing, and women have been oppressed throughout history, which I don't necessarily believe it is intentional in the way women are limited by our biology, like
yeah,
and because of the feminist stuff, there has been this victim, you can't blame the victim kind of
yeah.
victim shaming type thing. So like it's a real switcheroo because it's like women are equal members, like equally human, equally,
Yeah.
which means of course we can be assholes, like absolutely, of course, like there's a no brainer.
Oh,
And women, like negativity in women, like negative patterns of behavior in women manifest in a very specific way in groups.
yeah, yeah,
But never allowed to talk about it. Like if you start talking about feminism led to trans ideology in a number of ways, it's not 100% to blame, but it's certainly a major influence. Like some of the major theories that led to, you know, like if you say you're a man, definitely came out of Kate Millett and that arm of feminism. But at the moment you start trying to have any kind of conversation about that, you'll have like 20 men and both men and women that are feminists telling you that you're shaming women and you're blaming women. It's like only like less than 10% of the female population have ever been feminists. Like it's not a huge number. I was watching Carl Benjamin do a chat with Helen Dale, two people you can pretty much guarantee they've done their homework and they know the numbers. And they were saying that in the UK, depending on how feminism is defined, if it's actually not
that's
about equality, like if it's defined properly, which is it's not about equality, then less than 10% of the female population will say that they're feminists. That like that goes all the way back to the suffragettes. Like
you see, and that's 100% true. Like, I mean, I've always found. I mean, I used to say, "Oh, like I'm a feminist," and look, in the sense that I believe in equal opportunity for women, and I believe that every human being is of equal spiritual value, regardless of race, color, gender, sex, creed, whatever it is. The answer to that question is yes.
yeah,
Uh, but like you said, it's this definitive thing, and I always find having conversations with any feminists, especially like in groups, is like, well, that's not feminism. Well, that's not feminism. Well, that's not feminism. It's like, so what is it? And then you hear this second, third, fourth wave, and it's like, it's this chimera that changes with depending on the conversation and depending on the context.
yeah. It's like the no true Scotsman fallacy. It's like there's
Yeah.
there's no definition of what a feminist actually is, which means
Mm,
all of it is feminism because it never
mm,
had a hierarchy. So you
yeah.
can't say that
And so, like, you just can't, and you can't argue with that.
yeah,
You just can't argue with that. And I've got to say, look, it does have a point. Like, the police used to be, and still is, and, a male dominated profession. It will always be. They're aiming for 50-50 now. Good luck with that. But, like, and it's a bad idea. Like, I think women should be in the police. Don't get me wrong. Some of the best coppers I've worked with are
like,
women. Some of the bravest, the smartest, the toughest, the 100%. Like, no question there. But it's like, they don't have the upper body strength. Yeah,
and
there's
then
going to be limits.
our body strength isn't going to help them. Like
Yeah, screeching at someone is only going to have a certain effect for so long. Sooner or later, someone's going to pick you up and twist your head off.
yeah, there's like I mean it's a shame as well. Like I would love for women to be able to do like that want to join the police. And my best friend, one of my best friends from high school, um, joined the army. Was an MP. I think she tried out for the police after she got out. Like she served in Iraq. Desperately, like is just that person to a T.
Yeah, yeah,
But she doesn't have the upper body. Like she doesn't have the strength
yeah,
no matter how much she trains, like, and she
yeah,
is super fit. Like, she's always been super fit. She just doesn't have the upper body strength to take on someone even your size. Like, that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
is about transition that has been really interesting for me is that, like, I'm 5'8". There are Indian and Nepalese guys at my work who are 4, 5'2" that have better wrist strength than I do. Like,
Yeah,
I don't even
they'd still pick you up. Like they'd still twist your head off. Yeah,
stronger than me.
yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. So as much as you would,
100%.
everyone wants to be like, yeah, female firefighters and blah, 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 blah. They can't carry grandpa down the stairs of a burning building. But yeah, going back to the principalities thing, like the first time you said that in our very first chat, I kind of sort of got it a little bit, and then it just keeps coming back over and over and over and over and over again, like wandering through my day, and you will pop into my head with the principalities thing, and it's kind of like, apparently the telephone got invented in Italy and in the United States at roughly the same time by two
Huh,
people that weren't in contact with each other. Like
huh.
Alexander Graham Bell is the guy who was credited with it, but there was an Italian guy who created a similar device around the same time. And it's like this spirit of its time has come kind of thing. And it's kind of almost a bad example, but
No, but it's yeah,
like,
it's a way that you can explain it to
yeah,
materialists who can't get it, and these things manifest in the world. The beautiful thing about the breakdown of scientific materialism is, and again, it's going to get dark, but we're there, baby. Like we're back in medieval times, and you just cannot deny the existence of these entities anymore. You just can't. Like even if you just want to say, like, and I always frame it to people like AI. Okay, it's a human created entity, but it's a disembodied spirit that manifests ideas. It's an identity. It's an entity. You can have a relationship with it. It's going to try and embody itself in you. You're going to be in a relationship with it because it's so powerful intellectually. You're going to defer yourself to it, which is a form of worship. We're there.
yeah,
We're there, at least conceptually. Even the most, like, you're going to get guys like Richard Dawkins, who's no fool, but, who like 5 years ago was sneering at this stuff. These people are going to go, yeah, there's such a thing as entities. Yes. And no, we can't explain them. And yes, it is through, intangible things like meaning, point, and love that things are brought together. Yes. The universe cannot exist without these things. In fact, they are an intricate part of reality itself. They're not add-ons to reality that human beings have conceived of. We lay on reality so we can explain things to ourselves. No. These things are contingent to reality, material reality. So, I mean, for me, it's like, I'd really like you to sort of answer the questions like, okay, so these ideologies, and so in case this ends up as a clip, and so viewers know that we're talking about. So we're talking about the trans ideology generally, but that's all part of, people now can see that it's all part of these other movements, which fundamentally all are linked back to a form of scientific materialism, a form of determinism, but especially the kind of like trans movement, which is something that, you know a lot about.
mm,
How does a person of good faith respond to not individual trans people, because that's easy.
mm.
Like how should the Catholic Church and Christian, other good liturgical, authentically Christian denominations like the Orthodox and the Copts and stuff like that, how should the churches respond to this movement? And then if you could break it down and say, how should the individuals in the church respond? Again, I think part B is going to be pretty easy, like pray for those. But like,
Yeah.
how should this be approached?
I mean, it's kind of a difficult, like it's taken over. So in order to, like, I transitioned and it was kind of pretty much like, this is a real fringe kind of,
Mm.
mainstream society is never going to accept this. Like, you are limiting your life and you're making that decision. That it has gotten this far was it's just inconceivable that it ever got this crazy. Basically, the entire mainstream just needs to start saying, listen, no, sorry, but you can't change sex. Like I was watching this thing about After the Ball, the book After the Ball, that I think I sent you that clip. There's this pastor that was probably in his early 40s, and he was doing a review of this book that was basically like propagandizing making homosexuality palatable to the mainstream in America in the 90s. And it's such a duplicitous book, and it was just dodgy. They were really tactical about it. they kind of did it by the hardcore Christians. We're not gonna be able to sway them. So what we need to do is focus on the allies and the skeptical undecideds is what they said. So basically, they went for the secularists and pumped this and did the whole class of a sexual minority victim class who can't help this, were born this way. The book already has specified at the very beginning that they know that that's not true, which is something that's taken over the mainstream pretty significantly. And they basically wormed their way in that way by kind of weaponizing natural sympathies. And then you start having individuals within the church who suddenly have gay friends or gay kids or gay cousins or nieces or nephews, and that changes the ball game because it's really hard to hold your ground and be sympathetic at the same time. And this guy that was doing the pastor, one of the pastors that was talking about this book, was saying in the early 80s when hardcore like right-wing Christians started saying that AIDS was the condemnation of God, and it started to get this tone about it. This guy actually was like, that was a really bad move. Like, that was probably the most unchristian thing that Christians done at that point.
100%.
And moving forward, we need to stop that shit. Like, we really need to stop that shit right now.
Oh, absolutely.
It was really, I was like, oh my God, like, you've got my attention now. I think that is kind of the way that the whole world needs to, there are a lot of people that are wigging out and doing the whole, I'm going to call you she and her, and I'm going to do it over and over and over and over and over again. I'm going to do it religiously. And it's like, if you want to do that, go for your life. I really don't care. Quite often what happens without them realizing is that people that are listening to it then contact me and go, oh, that made me feel really creepy and I feel really bad for you. And I'm like, well, I really don't care one way or the other, but, you do you. So they kind of, in some ways, they think they're upholding the truth. And in other ways, sometimes it just comes across as uncharitable or, irritable stuff like that.
And see, yeah, 100%. And I do. Like, I know quite a few evangelicals who are kind of like the hardcore literalist people that we're kind of talking about. And I have to say, look, as much as I do like them and I respect that they're doing their best and all that kind of stuff, it is important to remember they are still heretics, ultimately.
Yeah.
And they are. No, seriously. Like, and I don't mean that in a condemnatory way.
Yeah.
But, they don't understand. They haven't. Not that any human being or even an organisation could understand the fullness of Christ's message. But it's like some people are more wrong than others, and they're more wrong. But one of the great insights I got from talking to them and from Rabbi Ari, and I got to say too, a lot of people in the Catholic Church. So I'm not. It doesn't sound like I'm denigrating the church or implying that this isn't in the church, because it is. I think we got this in spades. Is the no condemnation thing?
Oh.
It's like, okay, so you're pointing out that's wrong. It's like, yeah, sin exists, but you don't condemn people who sin. Oh. The issue, and it's the old cliche, but it's true. The issue is the sin. It doesn't define the sinner. And this idea that, and it goes back to authentic self too, again, because this is why this entire movement, especially like the evangelicals, don't see it because they're literalists. They just they don't really understand how to handle marginality. They never really have. It comes down to the framework. Like if you believe that there is a literal way of interpreting the Bible, which means that there is only one way of interpreting or applying that word, or alternatively in the forensic sense that there's a fact that happened from which you can get all meaning from, that there's not a relationship between a physical thing, a fact, and meaning. Because again, the kind of postmodernists are partially right. There is the potential that human beings can project a false meaning that's wrong onto an event, a fact, or they can get a certain degree of facts and arrange them in the wrong way. Yes, true. The postmodernists are right in that, and yeah. I would kind of agree. I would agree with them that when it comes down to our more strident evangelical cousins, who make those condemnatory kinds of comments, yeah, they're wrong. Like, from a Christian point of view, objectively wrong. There's no, I mean, for me and for almost every Catholic I know, there's just no problem with dealing with, homosexual people or trans people or whatever it is, because again, we get marginality, and because it's something that's hammered into us early. It's like, in some way you are going to be, every individual is marginal.
Mm.
There's going to be in some way that you're going to be a marginal person.
Yeah.
And really that's just another way of saying you're going to sin in some way. You're going to fall short. You're going to, in some way that there's some way part of your life that you're going to be unhappy with yourself and you're going to be crappy at. I don't think the evangelicals really understood and couldn't handle, because of their framework, because they are literalists. And, I'm doing the inverted commas thing on purpose. They just can't grasp it. They haven't got a hierarchy, and they don't really do the no condemnation thing.
Yeah.
You do get that halo effect, and you do get that tribalism. You do get all these sorts of things that come into it.
Yeah.
But for all of our faults, like, and forgiving someone, saying, oh, look, I don't know how to handle that, or like, allowing someone like that into your church is a bad thing, okay? Because you're going to end up, fundamentally, you're allowing corruption. But if you're going to have a broad church, and you're not going to be condemnatory, you have to sustain that risk.
I don't think there needs to be like, okay, so because I've been thinking about this as well, because like at this point, people keep asking me about detransition, and it's like, what would that even look like? My face is going to stay looking like this for the rest of my life. Like, my voice is not going to go back up. My facial hair will only go away with like really painful electrolysis. Like, it's one of those things, and it's like thinking about that, and I'm kind of, there will be a lot of people that fall into this category moving forward for the next generation or two, where they made decisions in their lives where like the information that you had at the time, liberal culture, blah 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 blah, progressive, it's like, this is the way my life is going to go, this is what this is going to look like, and then you get 3/4 of the way down the path and the whole meaning changes, and like you get, everything gets thrown, the board gets thrown up into the air, and you've kind of got to then make sense of what you're doing. So there'll be a reckoning moving forward, but it's like, well, maybe like for people that want to go to church, like like if you're still actively participating in the sinful behavior, then maybe you're welcome in every way, but please don't come to me for communion, because I'm not going to give it to you, and you asking me for it, or you rocking up at the line in the middle of Sunday morning is going to be embarrassing for the both of us. Or like just kind of having lines where it's like, listen, like, you're more than welcome, but while ever you're doing that, I'm really sorry, but I kind of think with the trans thing moving forward, like, the sports thing should never have happened. Like, absolutely, it just should never have happened. Yeah. The jails thing is outrageous. The spaces thing in general is like, it should just never have gotten that far. So, and especially in Australia, we have we always have third options everywhere we go anyway. So much. So like I've predominantly used like disabled toilets or gender neutral options for the entire time I've been transitioned, because it's always felt like I was invading, like I was in a space that I shouldn't be when I was in the men's toilets. Like, every once in a while I might have to do it, but if I can avoid it, I generally do. So I think like the trans thing is it's going to take the entire LGB thing down with it as well, because the more I research into that, the more you realize that that's built on quicksand as well. Like, I've been thinking about,
and feminism.
Yeah, it's going to wipe
and BLM.
Yeah, it's going to wipe out the entire progressive enlightenment type thing. There's already a revival of young people turning towards Catholicism, but more specifically, I'm bumping into a lot of people turning to
TLM.
They're going to the Orthodox Church because that is less altered than the Catholic Church, but I think
Yeah.
either option is a good option, because it seems that,
They're more authentic.
well, they don't, like the personal relationship with God thing that seems to have influenced the entire Protestant movement, like whether the Catholic Church was corrupted with the indulgences and stuff like that, like, yeah, probably that seems
Yes.
like pretty decent, but what they've done to what they did to replace it has led all the way down to now, there's personal truth. Like, that's not a great end result. So if that has kind of led to this juncture, so like maybe there was something a bit rotten back at the beginning. So yeah, I think there's going to be like some sort of traditionalist revival, and that's already kind of pretty much well underway. And the
You
way,
think you think it's, but what I'm hearing is, and I just want you to correct me if I'm wrong, is politely say no.
pretty much, pretty
Yeah.
much be like, listen, it's not, and I mean, people take it personally as well. Like, it's really hard.
Oh, of course, and you can understand because it's linked with identity. Yeah.
No, but it's just like I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like, there's a 4 or 5 part series that I shared with you about the history of homosexuality, and like it was only with the German sexological, at the beginning of the German sexological stuff, that they started to think about homosexual acts being like an identitarian type thing. Like, it wasn't just about you did something,
Yeah.
that was a bit,
This is who I am.
yeah, but
I'm making a statement,
it suddenly turned into, this makes you a different type of person.
which is true.
Well, as it turns out, I saw a thing yesterday, and people do this about, I don't really, I'm a bit baffled about the man thing at the moment. Like, men are more homosexual or less likely to be bisexual. Not from what I've seen, like, really not from what I've seen. And I saw a thing yesterday, a study yesterday, that said something along the lines of something like 70% of bi or homosexual men have actually had sex with the opposite sex before in their life. So it's this huge number. It's like, there was one thing where the Ruth Institute sent me something, and they pointed to a 1994 study where they asked this series of questions. I think I sent you this as well, and it's like, do you find the opposite sex the same sex attracted? Have you had any sexual interactions with the same sex? Do you identify yourself as homosexual? What percentage of people have only had sex with the same sex? Like, what percentage of, and it was like a 450,000 participants in this study or survey or whatever it was. 0.6% of men that identified as gay have only had sex with other men. So like 99.4% of these guys have at some point shagged a woman. And maybe I'm not maybe I'm not that smart, but it's like, I didn't really need to learn, like, if we're talking like innate orientation, I didn't need to learn to write with both hands before I figured out that I'm right-handed. Like, I just always was right-handed. So is the way that we've thought about this as part of the sexual revolution for our entire adult lives a euphemism?
Wrong.
Because it seems like it. The more I look at this, the more I'm like, holy fuck.
Because I got to be honest, I kind of like bought the born gay thing, and the reason was not so much of trying to make excuses or anything like that. I don't get it. Like, there's something I've tried really hard in my life to be is truly empathetic, and it's something that I actually asked for early. Like, I kind of like, I try really hard to understand the perspective of other people, even if I don't agree with it. And I don't get homosexuality, because I spend most of my adult life around blokes in blokey stuff. Like, I've seen, big, handsome, strapping guys and all that kind of stuff. Blokes who are fantastic, whose company I really enjoy, go out, just want to hang out with them. But I don't want to shag them. Well, I just don't get that. Yep. Like, not even a tiny little bit. I
yeah.
don't get it. that's why I kind of like.
I
So
haven't. I haven't.
you've rejected the born gay thing, like.
Well, it's not me. That's not what the science says. Like it is literally like this book after the ball is the reason that you think that. Like, and the book states outright in the book that it's propaganda. Like
Okay,
that's why
mate.
this book is so outrageous because it's like we're going to propaganda our ways to making this acceptable, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but to shag someone, Kev, you'd have to find them sexually attractive.
I think in some ways, like, and I don't want it to be outlawed. I don't want it to be banned.
No,
I don't
no.
want, like, I don't want to go back in history.
God forgive.
I
God
don't think
forbid.
it's equal. I don't think that it should be like I'm not for gay marriage anymore. I was never particularly big on gay marriage, but I think no, it's not the equal value to society that straight marriage is, heterosexual marriage is. Um, and I also think that the culture of the LGBT within itself does not. 30% of gay people have gotten, like, it's like 30% or something that have taken up marriage. Lesbians have the highest divorce rate
Yeah,
of anybody, which is in the mid 70
yeah,
percentile range.
yeah. I've been to lesbian DVs. It's
Yeah,
funny.
we've also like got the highest domestic violence rates.
Yeah,
Gay
they're bitches
men,
to each other.
yeah,
They are so bitchy to each other.
gay, gay men have the lowest divorce rates of anyone whatsoever. But
Really?
they also, I saw this one thing recently because I've been digging into this and I haven't come across, like, my knowledge is not comprehensive, so take all of this with a grain of salt. But there was one study that I saw from the Ruth Institute where they were saying that after 5 years of two men being together, statistically, the chance that they are monogamous is 0%. So there's no sacrifice to be together.
So they're staying together, but they're still shagging other blokes.
Yeah, which is why
So it's polygamy, really, with a
yeah,
ring.
yeah, pretty much.
Polygamy with a ring.
Which is why they have the lowest divorce rates because men are most unlikely to leave in the first place, statistically, and well, it's women that are going for divorces now, so
Yeah.
men seem to stick it out a bit more than women do, whether they're happy or unhappy. And
And like you said, they're going to forgive. It's like, well, I'm rooting other blokes. He's rooting other blokes.
yeah, but
Nah.
I mean, where's the higher?
And like you said, so we haven't got any kids. We haven't.
Yeah, like there's no like I did this chat GPT thing where I was like analyze the mainstream information that the LGBT puts out and tell me what virtues are present. And even ChatGPT was like, sorry, there are no virtues present. This one maybe might be, but no, like not really. Like it's not reaching for anything higher.
Yeah.
It never has. So it's like I would
Yeah.
love for that to be sorted out so that it gets to stay around because I don't want people to be unhappy. But the idea, like just everywhere I look, it's a disaster. Like most of the people that I know in middle age, like no one's relationship made it to the 30, 40 year mark. Like, and for like, there are a few people that do because there are always outliers and I'm really happy for them. Like really, really happy for them. But it's not the norm. Like
But they're not indicative. No. I
most,
suppose you're right. Look, it is. It's what you're talking about fundamentally is masturbation with another person's body, really, when it comes right down to it. Because, um, uh, you know, when you're, I mean, when I was, I can only talk about my own experience, but if you're if you're shagging someone and there's, you're all we're not having any kids, you're all condomed up and they're on the pill and all that kind of stuff. Like it's great, you have an orgasm and all that kind of stuff. But if you're lying with a woman to procreate with the either the aim or the knowledge that it's going to happen in mind, it's a different experience. It is a completely different experience.
yeah. And
Like
then,
I would genuinely put the first one in, and again, like you shoot your load, so it's masturbation. It's akin to masturbation. It's
yeah,
kind of like
there's
it's
no higher purpose.
there's no purpose. You're not.
There's no real responsibility or
No.
self-sacrifice or like there's none of the things that bring you, like you see, like Dave Rubin said this out loud in an interview with Jordan Peterson where he was like, I'm married to my partner. He's married to a guy called Dave and his name is Dave. Like, you've got to be kidding me. But we're happily married, we've settled in for the duration, and it feels like my life has plateaued. So we're having kids via a surrogate because we feel like that's the next step of responsibility, and that's going to help us become adults. And they're right, that will help them become adults, but that's not the right way to go about that.
It's
Like,
not
they're
the
not
same.
thinking about the kids at all. Like, they're basically robbing the kids of their biological mother
Oh yeah.
as an act of love from the very, like, it just is a bit twisted. Like, it's like
I
every
mean,
time I turn around and try to like look for something, it's like I'm kind
yeah.
of starting to come to the idea of, it was kind of sold as, like, gay people can't help it, and like, and I felt this way for
Yeah,
my,
I still do. Like, okay, so, but I mean, so what is it then? Like, I mean, so are people just choosing it, or like are people like, But like, so again, like, what's going on? How would I how can, like, I'm hearing what you're saying, but how do you reconcile that with the fact that obviously some bloke is looking at another bloke and going, for what? Like,
how do you get there? I think I saw this one interview where a woman who was a reformed lesbian, because apparently there are more ex-gays, at least in America, but this woman who had been a lesbian, who is now married, was being interviewed, and she was like, it's more emotionally powerful. Like, it just is, like, there's less gap between two women and two men. Like, there's less emotional gap. There's no, I wonder what he's that. They're right there with each other in the moment. So it's more intense in that
they
sense.
both know what each other wants.
Yeah, like when I was younger, the girls that I was friends with were hooking up with guys, and it was like they were like, I have no idea where he. Well, it was like two people having a separate experience. They were like, I have no idea where he is. It feels like I'm just a warm body. Like, he's not actually. He's lost in his own experience, which is the physical experience,
Yeah.
and I have no idea. Like, I'm just along for the ride. That doesn't happen in gay relationships. Like, gay sex is not, that's not my experience of it at all. Like,
Right.
specifically with two women, it's like you're right there in the moment with each other, you know what's going on, you're kind of almost psychically connected emotionally in some ways. And I imagine it's probably
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
similar with two guys as well, but guys also, gay guys tend to have a higher instance of sexual abuse. Like, we've confused gender nonconformity with homosexuality. Like, if you see some kid that's super, super, super gender nonconforming, everyone's like, he's gay. That happened to me a lot. I also have met grown women who were probably equally as gender nonconforming as I am, or as I was, and they got married and had kids, like straight people.
Yeah.
So we've kind of confused, I think we've confused a lot of different issues.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
these signals. You know.
Yeah, so I kind
Yeah,
of,
no, you're right. So like, but if you took that marker and said, no, that defines you, that this equals you being this
hmm,
and your authentic identity, rather than being negotiated with God, is something that you can crown and is something that's recognized by your community. Again, I do believe, of course, that human experience and human community is going to be somewhat indicative. Like, these things are going to,
hmm,
like, yeah, if that was validated rather than invalidated, which I think is what you're kind of like saying before, is like, we don't want to make this illegal, like,
yeah.
100%. Like, we don't want to pick on people, 100%, but we don't want to encourage it.
Hmm.
So the social cue should be like, okay, so you're feeling that way, but it's not best for you,
Hmm.
and it's not best for society, and it's not best for,
Well, I mean, it was
in the
sold.
long run, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah, it was sold that way. Like, like how it was just horribly, unnightmarably oppressive to ever think that someone that has same sex attraction could get heterosexually married. But like, looking around 30 years into the experiment, like, I'm not seeing a lot of long term happiness together or empire building, like, within the family.
Yeah. Again, not to say there's not outliers, but
Yeah,
like, these things aren't.
but it's not the main. It's not
Yeah,
from
yeah,
what
yeah.
I've seen. So it's like, and then you add on Lisa Diamond's recent, like the fact that 70% of men have had sex with like the opposite sex, which means it's a strong indication that it's not innate. Like, maybe it's unchangeable, definitely. Like, you still fancy who you fancy, But just because your brain tells you something doesn't mean you have to deal with it. You know, so
A quick anecdote, like validating that. So when my long-suffering wife and I were first dating, the first few months, so she was living in a university share house, and I was stationed out at Winton at the stage at that time, and like this is a university share house. It's like something out of the young ones. But and so there's all these young people there that they're discovering who they are because they've left home and all that kind of stuff. And there was a gay chap there from Bundaberg, who I kind of knew. Nice bloke, actually, really good company, funny, smart bloke. And he was like, outing himself to me like a good redneck cop from West Queensland. It's like, oh, Matt, just so you know, I'm gay, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was.
I kind of knew that already, but yep, sure.
No. Yeah, I can't. Well, he was effeminate, but women loved him.
Mm.
Women loved him. It was kind of like chicks dug him. Like, if anything, I was a little bit jealous of him. Like, not because, but then anyway, so like a couple of nights later, big night on the piss. Kate and I snuck off. I crashed in her room, fell asleep. Wake up in the morning, come out, and here's this bloke with a woman, and they're in a state of undress. Like, clearly you didn't need to. I never got my detective's appointment, but you didn't have to be a detective to figure out what they've been up to. Anyway, so I'm sledging him later on. I said, "What's a good God-fearing queer like you doing shagging women?" And she was a pretty girl too, actually. Like, It's like, what are you doing, Chick? He goes, well, we just got drunk and it just happened. I'm like, I thought you were a poofter. Like, yeah. Like,
I bumped
you just spent like, this heartfelt moment coming out like, Matthew, I'm gay. Like, here you are.
Sometimes I wonder if it's about the identity, because there's a lot of that. Like, I've met actual kids whose father was a gay man and whose mother was a lesbian, and they hooked up at some party, got drunk, shagged, she fall pregnant, and then they raise the kid in like as a kind of queer family type situation. They don't get together and get married or anything, but they co-parent the child together. And then the child popped up at like, there were a couple of these people that popped up at young lesbian support groups, so the young kids turn out that they're lesbian as well, because I only ever bumped into girls where this happened. But yeah, like there's a lot of that as well, like kids who come from same-sex parents that are also same-sex identified, and it's kind of a bit
because they've seen that.
Yeah,
they've seen that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the gay thing is it's certainly going to have its wings seriously clipped.
So you think it'll go right back to only a very small minority of people on the margins, where it's people know it's there, but they kind of turn a blind eye to it. Well, I mean, I've got to be honest. As a reactionary Catholic conservative, I'd be kind of like happy with like, okay, like there's a, to use it. I know this might sound trite. It's a movie analogy, but like there's an ogre called Shrek living in the swamp.
Mm.
Leave Shrek alone.
Yeah.
Shrek's in the swamp. There's swamps. There's ogres. Just leave them alone.
Yeah.
Let them do their thing. And that's how we handle marginality. Because, again, it actually comes back to what we we're talking about before. It's like an acceptance of marginality.
Mm.
Because I don't think and again, this is so sectarian, but I actually think this is true. And like, I don't think the Protestant evangelical mind knows can't really, and their whole system, they just don't know what to do with marginality.
Yeah.
They just don't know. Whereas, the Catholic / Orthodox tradition, it's like, yeah, like there are all these kind of stuff like you get, but there are marginal people. There are marginal people. There are, and we just have to deal with them. Everyone's got a place in their society. Some places are on the margins, and we leave them the heck alone.
Yeah.
And we hope that they come up. But what we don't do, and this is what the weird thing that's kind of that I've seen happen, Kevin, I'd be interested in your take on this, is what we've done is taken the margin and put it in the middle.
Yeah.
Like we've inverted the cross. And something else I want to talk about too, and I really want your take on. Like you said, okay, so this stuff is starting to like normalize, and we're starting to see it. I'm genuinely worried about a really nasty backlash, like going from the Weimar Republic to really nasty totalitarianism.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's going to happen.
It's already started.
How do we handle the backlash?
I think the gay people are just going to have to grow a thicker skin. If you go back into the history of it, Harry Hay, who basically was one of the main early gay activists, who was also a lifelong pedo apologist, as it turns out, he was a NAMBLA supporter. In the early, I don't know how old he was, but I think in the early 20s or 30s, he got involved in the fledgling unionist movement, which was basically socialist Marxist. And he was trained in that. Um, and then he was hanging out as, and I think gay has changed as well. I think gay men used to be people that heterosexual men shagged in parks. I don't think that there were many gay tops. But anyway, so they start talking about homosexuality as an oppressed sexual minority. And the whole "we can't help it, we're born this way," which is totally self-ID all the way back to the beginning. It's like, this is who I am, believe me, with no evidence whatsoever backing it up, which worked. But I think the whole, society owes me to feel good about myself. Like I'm a gay person. I feel oppressed by the society because I can't see myself represented in the media. Like, I think that's nonsense, and it needs to go. Like, there were no gay people in the media when I was, like, there were no lesbians in the media when I was, in the 80s. I didn't notice any, and like, you just gravitate to the tomboys. Like, some of those were present. I think, especially facing the birth rate issue that we're facing, the thing that progresses society into the future is the nuclear family, and we need to do everything in our power to focus that as the center of the universe, because that's what it needs to be. Otherwise, we don't have much of a fucking future. So there's a lot of the gay stuff that is gonna have to, like, just be like, I'm really sorry, but that's your problem, not my problem. And I don't really like saying that, and it doesn't really fit into the culture. But you see that on Twitter already, like, like, really.
I mean, is there space for live and let live? I mean, are you that discouraged to think that it might end up in a truly totalitarian?
No, what I think what will happen is something similar to what it was like in the 90s, without the propaganda of, like, this is the most exciting new thing. I think it will kind of be. It seems like in previous eras, like what Darlene was talking about, where her grandparents knew what gay men were and they weren't particularly impressed, but they weren't particularly malicious about it either. I think it will be some version of that, where there will be pockets of tight-knit communities where people live and operate out of that. But I think the takeover of the mainstream that made a lot of this acceptable and has inevitably meant that it has gotten bigger. Like, it's just getting a bigger and bigger and bigger share. I was watching a Beckett Cook video earlier, and apparently there's this new show that is like radical, revolutionary, new frontier of gay activism, because it's a TV show about two gay guys, and it's boring. So they're normalizing it even more. So, like, this show is about them, cooking burgers,
making toast in the morning and cleaning the
living in the
toilet.
cabin.
Wow.
Going,
yeah, there's a compelling TV show.
well, apparently it's quite popular, but like,
what?
Like, it.
I suppose people watch the Kardashians like a bunch of attention-seeking narcissists.
The problem with a lot of this stuff is that, like, displaying it at all or giving it any representation at all is kind of promoting it.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. So I think like a lot of people are, it could go either way, really. Like, I think
there's going to be a really nasty backlash, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already starting to see that. Like,
I think there's a lot of pissed off people out there. There is a condemnatory aspect to that. Like, it's like, no, that should be illegal. It should be against the law. And I'm like, if you make stupid laws that really are oppressive, people will rise up against them, and well, they should.
Yep.
Like laws need to be easily understood, widely accepted, pretty much self-enforcing, and to the stage. And here's where the fear dynamic comes in. Like the criminals need to be more scared of you and the rest of the community than you are of them.
Mm.
And if you don't have those four things, you're an army. Like the police aren't an army. I'm not from that. Well, I'm not from Swahili land.
Yeah.
Like I'm policing my community. I'm trying to make things better. I'm not an invading army.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people understand those dynamics with authority.
No.
So you're sitting there going, we need to make gay illegal. It's like, no, dickhead. We need to make trans illegal. No, we don't. Yeah. The only thing is like, and I've been thinking about this a bit. I've got to be honest, and I'll be interested in your take on this. I would make in the People's Republic of Matt, there would be like abortion would be illegal again, and I would like crack down hard on that. But like, it wouldn't be against the women. Like, I would not prosecute any woman for having an abortion. That would not happen. I'd be going for the doctors.
Yeah.
I would 100% be going to the doctors. It's like, so if you're a woman that gets an abortion, nothing's going to happen to you, but legally. But if you're a doctor that does that, bro.
Yeah. Don't get caught because you're fucked. Yeah.
Because, man, you're going off.
Yeah, I think a similar thing, and I think it's already started to happen, like the trans thing, like it's becoming so unpopular.
Well, what would happen, and quickly, what would you do in the People's Republic of Kev? So, like, can you have operations and can people engage in, can they do all that stuff?
They're still going to go to Thailand, so I think there'll be a small percentage where this is really important and they'll do it. I think making it, if this had been a little less socially acceptable, I never would have transitioned. Like, and I can say that for 100% certain because it was one of the things that I weighed up in my decision to do it. And I knew that living in queer doesn't mean now what it used to mean. Like now it's very, very clearly an extremely left-wing, revolutionary, radical, political theory. Like it's not even about gay, straight, trans. Like that's not what it's about. It's about revolution. In the 90s, queer meant super left-wing, alternate, somewhat armchair socialist. Like there weren't many people who were radical.
Yeah, all these things are identity markers, fundamentally.
I knew that I had that safe haven that I could retreat to. If I didn't have that safe haven, I would never have transitioned. There are people who will do it anyway. I don't think they really need that much help. Like, if you want to do this, then that's cool, but that's on you. Like,
so I mean, but in the People's Republic of Kev, so you're now the dictator in charge of Australia.
Yeah, I don't think that banning it completely. I think more or less should, but I don't think that will work completely. I kind of think more making it as socially as unacceptable as it used to be. Like people,
even for kids,
it should be out. Like no chance kids can get anywhere near this. Like
okay, so there's an age. What I'm hearing is there's an age limit.
When I transitioned, you could not transition if you were under 18 without parental support, and no parents at that time were signing fucking yes, let's go along with this. Like parents just were not doing that at that point.
So you think that's what it'd be? So 18 on, yes. Below 18,
I think it should be basically impossible. Like I don't know that I want to rely on making it illegal. I think making it completely socially unacceptable. Like if you put family back in the beginning, in the center of the community, which is where it should be, and the focus is on healthy families, then
people aren't going to want it.
Like it's not you're not going to have anywhere to go. Like you're not going to bump into people who accept it. You're not going to bump into people who are okay with it. It's going to be this weirdo, super fringe thing that's like a Kentucky Fried Rat, where someone's friends heard about someone somewhere
Yeah.
once that may have done this. Like, I think it,
You're Shrek. You're the
you know,
ogre. You're
like I think
the ogre in the swamp.
I like I don't know that banning things is necessarily the like because we already have a big enough government. Like that's kind of tying into the totalitarian
Yeah.
government type thing. I kind of think
Yeah.
what
Good
the
point.
way that we deal with this that's the fastest and the most effective is probably like the social realm where it just is, you know, it's seen for what it is, where nobody changes sex. It's a weird thing to do, you know, and it's not really looked up upon. It's kind of looked down upon. Um,
Because with the backlash, Cav, like we're going to need to have these conversations
yeah,
because it's going to happen. Because there are going to be people who want to come in and ban everything.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
and
like we're even seeing that now with the conservative government in Queensland who want to reintroduce. They want to make public drunkenness illegal again.
that's
It's
my
like
problem with the banning stuff. Like, I agree with
it
banning.
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I agree that it shouldn't be legal for kids to transition. I don't think it should be particularly legal for anybody to transition, but I don't know that that's the way to deal with it. Like, I think the more effective way to deal with it and the faster way to deal with it is just to make it completely socially unacceptable.
Yeah, remove the incentives, remove the desire, and remove the incentives.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
But the backlash has already started. Like, basically, the future of.
that scares me, Kev. Because
Uh,
there are going to be these people with crosses who are going to misrepresent Christ,
mm,
misrepresent the kingdom of God, these weird heretics who want power. But the same people, the same weirdos, the same who would the people now who are banning everyone and trying to get their enemies jailed, they would have been inquisitors, patting themselves on the back while they're burning some heretic.
yeah,
There is no different. These people are heretic burners.
yeah.
You just get some people who just want to burn heretics.
You have a lot of anti woke or anti trans or however you want to frame them conservatives that kind of want to do the whole, you know, burning things down and banning everything and blah 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 blah. Then like they don't seem to be thinking about their arguments at the principle level. Like it's like this knee jerk kind of emotional response where, you know, they're saying like there's this woman on Twitter that is a South African woman that lives in Australia who is just everywhere, and she is very understandably irate about the whole trans thing. She's very involved in that debate, but she's really militantly legalistic and a bit shrill, and doesn't have much of a sense of humor and can't leave anything alone. So she'll be outraged that someone in the UK got, and I think it started to happen here as well. Like someone will be put in prison or fined or something for misgendering, or you know, some kind of social media speech thing will happen, and there will be a penalty, and people are outraged about it and up in arms, and we should have free speech. And like she'll interact with people who know me, who know that I don't think I'm like I didn't transition thinking that I was going to become a man. So if people call me he, it's probably more a nod to a more masculine social role than anything else. And she'll totally then flip from, you know, those people over in the UK should have free speech to spending half an hour berating people for calling me he, or some trans woman that totally passes she in a social conversation, and she'll just bang on and on and on and on and on about it and make a real pain out of herself to the point where people have stopped taking her seriously because she's such a pain in the ass. But she's not thinking about like is free speech universal? Like you don't have to agree with everything that everybody
100%.
says,
Yeah.
but the free speech exists for speech that you don't like, the opinion that is going against the grain, so that people have the ability to think out loud and say things that need to be said. It's not for, you know, polite conversation. So I kind of think a lot of the conservative, firstly they're kind of, you know, they're not doing as much research as they think they're doing. Like there's a lot of the gay stuff that is like LGB minus TQ plus, and it's like, well, you clearly haven't done any research into the LGB, because the moment you do, you discover pretty quickly that it was always this radical. like always this radical. It was always this anti-normativity, anti-heteronormativity. Individual gay people, that varied. And the majority of individual gay people that everybody's bumped into just wanted to exist in the community and get along. They didn't want to wipe out the family, but they didn't necessarily hear when their activists were saying shit that was strictly, anti-family, etc., etc. They kind of made excuses, and like I did that as well. I was like, you would hear like really radical, revolutionary, anti-family type stuff, and you self-justify it. You're like, oh, well, they must mean this. They must mean that. Like with the radical feminists, they made it very clear from the very beginning that they wanted to free women from, and they called it the drudgery of childbirth. They wanted to free women from the responsibilities of marriage, etc., etc., etc. Right? They spelled it out in every way they bloody well could from the 1840s and beyond that they were anti the family. Like they was like that was the premise. They were not for the family in any way, shape, or form, and they were very well aware of the fact that the family is the basic
foundational unit
of our society.
Yeah.
So they can't then turn around at this point and go, oh, well, no, we didn't mean that. Like, not that you're throwing blame around or anything like that, but, like...
You're right. Like, and even to this day, and it was what I suppose it was implied in, the earlier question I asked you before, I still don't, because I'm just so busy, and I've got, I don't understand the scale and scope of this. I just don't. You honestly, you've changed the way I view the world, Kevin. I mean that. And I simply don't have the time to read everything you send me and watch everything you send me, but I watch as much as I can. The main theme I get from it is not so much the specifics. It's like Matt, you don't get what's going on. You do not get what's going on. You don't understand the depths of this. You don't understand how powerful these people are. Yeah. You don't understand how determined these people are. And come that time, not only are they going to raise your altars, like they're going to take you away from your wife and your children and destroy absolutely everything.
Yeah, Sophie Lewis is already giving, and she has for the last few years that I know of, so it's probably longer than I know of, has been getting up everywhere she can globally when she's on book tours, and she's a paid university lecturer that goes around the world giving lectures on this stuff. She gets excited about,
of course,
being into hospitals where they're growing, like babies in womb labs and things like that. Like, these people are actually excited about that stuff. Like, that's what they want. And then you have the progressives that didn't want to go that far, that are trying to do the no true Scotsman thing where they're like, oh, no, they weren't part of our movement. So it's like they were leading your movement from the beginning. I'm sorry, but they were. Like, really paying attention is lovely, and it makes you not as culpable, but you don't have any principle to stand on.
You're a useful idiot.
Yeah, then you have the moderates that are like, oh shit, we're still back in Labour Union land, and then you have conservatives. Conservatives do this thing and that was the video that you sent me where you're like, that we're just going to breed our way to success.
Well, see, that's not I don't know if you watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't quite
the right wingers think that. They're the ones that think that more than the Christians.
Yeah, they can't like the conservatives that we're both talking about, not the Christians, but like the Glenn Becks and stuff like that. Look at, because they studied communism in the 70s when they're at uni.
Yeah,
they have this arrogance where they think that what they're seeing now they understand, and it's like if you think that queer means transition, then you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, trans stopped meaning transition quite some time ago at this point, which is why the non-binary thing is so prolifically everywhere, because it is about transcending gender. They want to do everything in their power to trash the gender binary to the point where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And
They're serious when they say there is no
yeah,
such thing. They actually believe that.
yeah, and they're
You're right. We
fucking
don't
around.
take these people on their word. We don't
Yeah,
actually believe them.
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't listen to what the radical left is saying. Like a lot of the TERFs,
Yeah.
like they come in, they kind of look at some crazy videos of like trans women behaving really abominably, and they see like a couple of dozen of those, and then they're really triggered, and they stop. They never go to the theoretical source itself of what's happening on the ground today. They go and read, like Sheila Jeffreys, and take that as Sheila Jeffreys was a radical feminist in the 70s who was one of the first trans exclusionary, because like a radical feminists largely accepted the trans thing, like trans women in
Oh.
the 70s, but there was a tiny cohort where they really kicked up a fuss. Um, and one of them was called Sheila Jeffreys, and she wrote this book that is trash. Like she decided everything before she put pen to paper, and it's just this self-replicating. Like you know the end of the book by reading the first page. Basically, her mind was made up well before, and then she just uses statistics to justify, and anecdotes and stuff like that. But the people that were part of that group, from what I understand and from what I saw for over a decade, they were a laughing stock. Like they were not like the lesbians who were anti-trans did not win the debate within the community at any point along the way. Like not once. But there are straight women who have come in and found those snippets and those fragments of fight from previous generations, and they've grabbed hold of them with both hands, and they're thinking they're now promoting them as something that they never were at the time. Like the lesbians forewarned us, and the lesbians have been fighting this for generations. It's like some lesbians have, yes, but not very many. And if you go and sit down and have a chat to those lesbians that were fighting this, you will find out very quickly that they were like man-hating separatists for the most part. Like, and a lot of the theories of the blank slate, like let's smash gender roles. There's no differences between there's no biological differences between men and women. Those theories belong to that realm. Like, so it's not a very principled stand in the first place. So
See, and here's the thing. Like, I always found that, like, I tapped out of a lot of that stuff because I just find it too confusing. And because the simple fact is I only have a limited amount of time and brain power, so I try and like use it in the positive to move forward in that. How indicative are those spaces of what is actually going on and what has the potential to going on, or are those because they're not real? Like really, when it comes right down to it, those spaces aren't real in the material sense. Like they're real in the sense of like the thoughts society is having about themselves and how it's stuff. But like, how indicative is what's happening on there of what's going to happen in the future?
I think the extreme. Well, I mean, people that are on fire for politics and stuff like these sorts of cultural debates, like they congregate in those places. Like moderates don't want to go and set the world on fire. In moderate
Yeah.
politics, so I've bumped into a bit of this at work, like in my actual work, and everybody there is basically a TERF, like more or less, like they're all like, this is ridiculous, but they're not necessarily extremists. I don't think the majority of the population, I don't think are ever going to be like hardcore extremists on this issue. They definitely, want things fixed. They don't want men in women's prison. They don't want men in women's sports. They don't want, unisex like primary school toilets or any of that nonsense. Like the indoctrination in school that goes on in schools is fucking insane. They want all of that fixed, and it makes them really, really, really angry. But at the personal level, like so long as you're not a dick, like they don't really care. Like,
But how indicative is that space of what is actually going, what the future is going to be like? So all those people having those arguments in there, is that what it's going to look like in the future, or?
it's hard. It's hard to know because we're gonna. It's gonna go on in Australia for somewhat longer before we snap out of it. The people that are being like the majority is kind of progressive, and they still get a vote. So they need, you know what I mean? Like just the nature of how our democracy works and the way communities work. Like communities want peace; they don't want open warfare. So I think like there's going to be a bit of shoving around the edges, but I think for the most part, it will be a firm and polite absolute not, like at church level and stuff like that. Like I think officially there's a really good chance, depending on how long it goes, that at the personal level it will be kind of diplomatic. Like I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know that the backlash will happen in the culture.
Mm.
So the rhetoric will has the will probably get quite anti, but you don't have to take that on personally. Like I am not the culture,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
can choose to, you know. And I mean the mainstream. If the mainstream suddenly turns and is like, no, we're done with this. Like
Yep.
we don't care what you do in your own bedrooms, but don't bother us with it. You got your marriage now. Shut down your organisations and fuck off, which is what should have happened as soon as marriage was passed. Like there was no reason for any of that political activism to be funded any longer, and it
And
continued.
yet, and yet,
Yeah,
billions of bucks are coming their way.
yeah, you
Yeah,
know, like so. It's kind of still. It's interesting, you know. And the other thing is that conservatives really don't know what they're up against as well.
yeah,
They really are.
yeah. You said that.
They think they know, but they really have no clue. Like every time you see people say, you know, all of these weird trans people, and it's like that's the first indication you have no idea what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
it's weird queer Marxists, and it's a unique cultural blend, like a form, gain of function form of Marxism that is new and it's very boots on the ground. Um, yeah, I don't know. There will be a cultural backlash for sure, but
Well, as you know, Kev, I actually, it's not that I don't deny and see the political, well, I don't see the political aspects of this, you know, as you've just articulated, that you are correct. I am in that group. Um, I do understand, though, even just at an acceptance, you know, basically like, oh, I understand the concept level of the political aspects of this. But, mate, as I've said to you in the past, I genuinely see this as spiritual, and that's why I'm sending you all this stuff about all the the witchcraft stuff
yeah, because
and
that's
all
what
that
it
kind of
is.
like other stuff. I actually see these things as manifestations of spiritual patterns. That's actually because, like, I'm a Catholic. Um, that's not always how I've seen the world, because the Catholic Church has been really crap about talking about this sort of stuff.
Mm,
But now we've been forced, because the Catholic Church became materialist. Basically, it's like just a social justice organisation.
mm,
That, you know, that's how it's like. So when everyone's attacking, it's just like, oh, we do good stuff. We do good stuff. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, yeah, but like you're no longer the place where beauty and truth resides. You're no longer the place where people can come to find meaning and point, because you don't even really discuss those things.
mm.
And you don't discuss spirits and principalities, because like you get embarrassed at a, you know, principality, what spirits are affecting people.
Mm.
I think that's what's happened,
Yeah,
mate. Well,
yeah,
you know, I
yeah.
mean, how wrong am I?
Not at all. Like it's an absolute like quest for meaning, you know. And like I think about Christianity as like a structure of public morality more than an individual salvation God type situation. Um, and once that got moved out of the way, because we were too smart for that, we started fucking things up really badly. And as it turns out, what we replaced it with is like just basically leading to complete collapse. So you're definitely right. There are ways for people to talk about it without getting to the embarrassing stuff that I'm starting to see happen. Like there are orthodox, because what needs to happen is religious conservatives need to step into the cultural war and start speaking sense to power, because people are looking for it. They already agree with the Christian stuff for the most part. They can see that they're like, they can see that that's what's gone wrong. Like one of my bosses at work was like, you know, he said to me, "Where are you going on your holiday?" And I was like, "You really don't want to know?" And he was like, "No, come on, tell me." So I said, "Oh, you know, I'm going to Adelaide for this anti-trans fucking medical conference thing." And he was like, "Oh my god, that's so fucking batshit insane, blah 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 blah." And he said to me,
A legend, eh? True God, Kev, you are a legend. You should have come to Cairns and come drunk beer with me. I'm just saying,
well,
keep going.
I will at some point.
Yeah, I'm going
And
to hold you. I'm going to hold you that, eh? True God.
he said to me, he actually said to me the first conversation we ever had about this, because he kept coming up to me afterwards. He actually said to me, like, we need, like, getting rid of Christianity was a mistake. This is happening because we got rid of Christianity. And it's like, yeah. And I mean, the other thing is that 100% of the population, like my grandparents' age, when they died, I going through their stuff, you'd find Bible verses that they'd written on things. So they deeply believed in it, but I didn't know that until after they died. Like, you know, like when we're talking about a patriarchal Christian society, it doesn't mean 100% of the population absolutely believed in Christianity and absolutely went to church and were smashing each other over the heads with Bibles every day, like everywhere you went. Like, it was a morality code that people use to interact with each other, and it fucking works. And it reaches to higher moral virtues and tries to endow people with a sense of meaning and, you know, self-sustainability, and give them like a bridge to launch from in terms of reasonable ambition.
Mate, look, I'm hearing you, but see, the whole thing is if you looked at what's happened with the trans movement, right? It's this is the best way, because it really does ape Christianity, especially liturgical Christianity, in an upside down way. So I'll break it down this way. So the acceptance of the trans/Marxist leftist movement, and this is why people went nuts when Jordan Peterson stood up to this, because this is the fundamental axiom. If you can accept the idea that a man can become a woman through surgery and stuff like that, by cutting his willy off and everything like that, there is really nothing else you won't believe. Like anything else can fall into place after that. Like if you kind of like accept that that axiom, like you can believe that Black Lives Matter is actually a great movement who are helping. You can, you know, kind of think that, you know, abortion is helping, is linked with the struggle of black people, even though that's what's killing people. You can actually, all of these weird, stupid, counterproductive stuff, they all fall into place. Okay. But at the heart of that, really, if you think about it, there's the acceptance of a strange, totally scientifically irreconcilable reality. That's a parody, really, of like accepting the idea that a Jew executed by the Romans 2,000 years ago was the Son of God and rose from the dead. And if you accept the axiom that, that Jew, rose from the dead, then all these other things that he said that are equally weird and just totally like weird, stupid, like all human beings everywhere, like from a person suffering from the worst Down syndrome to a person at the end of life suffering, who's old and who's like has got nothing left towards them, to the unwanted baby. All of these things, their lives are inherently valuable. We can't take them. It's not okay for the person at the end of the life, even though they're suffering real, stuff. We can't kill them. We can't allow themselves to kill themselves. No, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to kill babies. No, we're not going to do. No, 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 no. There's all of these things that flow from that understanding.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, you can't, without the woo-woo, without accepting the heroes from the dead thing, you can't. Cultural Christianity will not last. Like unless you accept the transcendent metaphysical assertions.
I think
in the same way that unless you accept there is no such thing as like a man can become a woman. Say it. Like that's why they're so insistent.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. It's a metaphysical claim.
Yeah. I think the way back will be more cultural and less personal, and I think the cultural stuff will lead to the personal stuff, because once you start digging into like the traditional Christianity stuff, like the first thing is, holy fuck, they have a system for everything, and all of the systems work. And people used to be really fucking smart, like a lot smarter than we currently give.
Irenaeus, like it annoys me that all these people like, oh, they were so stupid. It's like, dude, have you never read Irenaeus?
Yeah. And then from there, you kind of amazing that for a while. And then you start amazing about how perfect a system it is, and can anybody be that smart? And then the God question starts to open. So, like, just because it is currently what I'm seeing, and I mean, it's just my little pocket of the algorithm. Yeah. What I'm seeing is really smart people realizing that the culture is broken, who then kind of start to see a little bit of the Christian sense making. They sit around that for a while. Then they jump to the next thing you know, they're kind of dabbling in orthodoxy or Catholicism, more orthodoxy than Catholicism. And Orthodox don't seem to talk about spiritual. They don't do the Jesus woo woo thing. I haven't seen any of them do that. Like, they're definitely into it. They definitely, like, on a personal level, they definitely believe that stuff, but they don't seem to talk about it, which leads to more intellectual conversation. And they just have a system and a fucking process for everything. They have all of their bases covered.
Yeah.
So then people start saying, oh, I'm Orthodox, and they go into training. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, you believe in the woo-woo stuff as well. I can hear that in the tone of your voice or from the way you're saying stuff. Like, I think it will come around that way. Like, that's what seems to be happening thus far. Becomes, at a certain point, it just becomes really obvious that, like, it's not just...
You could tell.
It's not just about the trans stuff. Like, it really just isn't about the trans stuff at all. The trans stuff is the most obvious symptom of how batshit crazy the problem actually is. But, like, it's...
Well, like I said, that's the one where you can point out and go, that's a metaphysical claim. Because all the other Marxist / Enlightenment claims, there was based, there was some sort of materialist claim. It's like, oh, there's a struggle between the classes. Yes. There's oppression. Yes. All of these things you can measure and you can point at materially. But they made a metaphysical claim. The trans claim is a metaphysical claim.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, oh, okay. So our metaphysical claim is a Jew rose from the dead. And that is batshit crazy. That's batshit crazy. But it's true. And the evidence of its truth is when you play it out in the world of human experience over 2,000 years, for all of its faults, and it's not this, yes, witches were burnt, yes, all of these kind of things. They were not definitive. The world was pushed forward by Christianity. Yeah. It's a force for good in the world, despite what the retards out there say. And I got a friend, but she is like a full-on pagan. She loathes, and she's a doctor of medicine, right? Super smart, and an ex-cop. But she is a super pagan. Like, she is a super pagan and thinks that if something comes from the church, anything that comes from the church, it's just wrong. She even argues about stuff like, even the cross. You guys stole the cross from us pagans because that's north, south, east, and west. And I'm going, there wasn't like, we didn't have a compass. We thought there was a flat earth. No.
Yeah.
And you can't even, like, even at that, but even that foundational level, it gets the circular thing. It's like, well, you need to read anti-church stuff, and I go, oh, well, I have.
Yeah.
But like, going back to this kind of like spiritual side of things, like I'm seeing all these, spiritual patterns play out. Like men fail. Like, before I say what this is, I've got to say what this isn't. Men failed, right? We should have, like, when the feminist thing came along, it benefited us because we got to shag girls with no consequence. We let the women lead. We kind of like, it was like this Marvel kind of like movie where it's like, yeah, I'll say that to get a shag. 100%. What, we let all of this crap happen.
Mm.
But having said that, like, because we failed women and we didn't do what we could have and should have, we didn't give women what they actually, bottom of their hearts, really want. Not what they say what they want. And we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so what happened was you had women going crazy. And I mean at like a collective level.
Yeah.
I see everything, people talk about the feminization of work and all that kind of stuff. And there's a degree of truth to that. But I think it's deeper than that. I think what's happened is women have gone crazy. And when women go crazy, like collectively, they go crazy in the ways that have been described in ancient texts. Like they become witches. They become pagan witches where they want to punish men. They want to kill babies. And it's because we let them down. Like as a man, I've got to be honest. Like I kind of like look at it and I go, it's our fault. Like, yeah, women are going crazy. That's true. That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
But you know whose fault? It's our fault.
Yeah.
We let this happen. Like, and we didn't step up.
Well, men have the monopoly on physical force, which isn't to say they're going to go around bashing women and places. But if men had stood up and said, and I mean, there are also a lot of we went from World War One, which wiped out a generation, to World War Two within a generation that wiped out a generation.
Yeah.
And like 20 years later, we have 10 years later.
No fathers. Fathers.
North Korea. Then from late 60s, we have Vietnam. And then around that time, feminism starts to take off. So we're having like this massive masculinity crisis at a time that feminism really starts to take off, which is probably one of the reasons why feminism took off as well as it did. And there was also a lot of pat you on the head or pat you on the ass kind of sexism that had seemed to creep in around that time as well. Like there was, it seems like between the 30s and the 60s, there was a lessening of respect for women, generally speaking. Like that sort of seems to be like it seeped its way into the culture as well. But if men had, in the late 60s or whatnot, just said, absolutely not, no way, this is not happening, no, then it wouldn't have happened.
But I agree. But I think the way that we should have said it is through role. It's going, you know what, we're going to step out to our roles. I will be the head of a family for you. I will sacrifice myself for you. I was like, okay, because you pointed that quite well, actually. And now that you think about it, what that means fundamentally is, Kev, so we've had definitely 2 generations of fatherlessness, right, starting at the beginning of last century. And then you had like all these other fathers that were kind of like taken away in all these stupid other petty, pointless wars. But not just that, in the materialist idea that like the only way that you can, and it's kind of like, it's both capitalism and Marxism. What you become valid from working hard and from reaching the hierarchy at work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which means you're not at home, which means you're not a staff. And if you look at the way, and I'm not idolizing, medieval time, because I like dentistry, but if you look at if you look at the way that the economy was kind of like done in medieval times, you basically had families. So if I was a tailor, but like it wouldn't just be me doing that. Like the wife would be happy. So together you were an economic unit.
Yeah.
And the kids would be running off the clothes or whatever it is you made to. So your little economic unit, and it comes back to what you were saying before fundamentally, and I'm validating exactly in an economic way what you were saying before, so the foundational unit of society is the family. So if you've got all these like kind of little families, and there's nothing wrong with companies, don't get me wrong, because like you're getting a whole group of people together to share risk. That's how companies and why companies form.
Yeah.
But if you get like companies taking over and pushing out the idea of small business, well, a family is something that is united in meaning.
Yeah.
With a point. You get a man and a woman, like you said, and it's so linked to what you were saying before. It's like, two chicks shagging, they're having like, they're not having, but it's like, it's a deep level. It's like, yeah, I know what you want, baby. It's like, you want, whatever it is there. So, that in a way it works, right? If the point is orgasm, that kind of works. If it's just a sexual kind of like thing, that it's a form of masturbation to get to an orgasm, it works. All right. But if you get a man and a woman and, my loving wife pushes back on me quite a bit, and I'm less happy about pushing against her because like I just lose every battle that I fight. But like at least that you have them pushing against each other, but they're united in creating a family, and then they're united together in a moral sense, and then they're united together economically. It's like boom.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this today a bit because of the the trans woman that was coming at me, who was like I was quite civil with for a long time, but then suddenly turned on me.
It's always going to go bad, though, Kevin.
Yeah, that seems to be a returning pattern. But he's doing this thing where he's like, "I'm an upstanding, I have my integrity, I'm a man," but it's like you are like it's not just biology. Like, we're not just talking about biology here. A man is not just testicles and a bigger frame. Like, a man is a role. So, like, you can't give up that role and everything about that role while hanging on to the name of it and thinking that you're keeping the integrity of that. Like, what you're doing is degenerate. Like, it just is making you less of a man, which means you don't get to claim your male integrity because you've given that up to cross-dress. Like, and I'm really sorry, I don't, like, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, it doesn't mean I don't like you, but
you can't have your cake and eat it.
You can't then sell me a story about you were so depressed that you couldn't leave the house and you were a bad parent, and so you now are cross-dressing because that's making you happy, so you're there for your daughter so that you can be more present in her life, and that makes you...
That's bullshit.
Like,
what a complete load of bullshit. And again, but it is exactly what we were talking about before. It's like that guy's given up his role for like sexual gratification. Again, all that is going to lead to is more feminine insanity.
Yeah. The problem is with the AGP thing is that because society is so broke...
Sorry, AGP?
The organophilia. So the guys that are doing it for sexual fetish, like... Right. You see the most obvious examples of that, right? You see the people where it's like it's so obvious that they're getting their rocks off. But there are also people in that demographic who are, like chaste, upstanding, like moral individuals, like they're decent people, and they don't get any, like they're cross-dressing, and it's not actually a sexual thrill that they're getting out of it. They're not getting hard-ons or anything like that. They're not jerking off. But they resolve this, like a lot of them seem to have mother issues. They have this like deep-seated emotional need for that kind of nurturing, maternal type thing. So it's really not sexual for them. It's absolute, but so they have a real problem with understanding, well, I'm not, there's nothing sexual about my life. Like, I'm not acting out any sexuality. So how can this be a sexual perversion?
Yeah.
I make that connection. And
but in a Freudian kind of way, it is, yeah.
Yeah. So some AGPs are definitely, like, I bumped into more of the emotional kind than I have the sexual kind. Like, the sexual kind definitely exists. Like, we've all seen plenty of that evidence. But like, there are these people who are basically asexual who are transitioning for some deep-seated emotional...
They got mother issues.
Nurturing. Most of the ones that I've talked to seem to have mother issues.
They got mother issues.
They will talk about. Not all of them do though, so I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a universal thing. But it's very clearly like when you're talking to them, you get no sexual anything from them ever. Like they don't bring it up, they don't give you that energy. They're not leery.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
they're
Gotcha.
not like wink, nod type people. But they definitely fit into that subcategory of this is some kind of transvestic thing. Um, but yeah, like
100%.
that's one of the problems of the whole gender debate as well. Like
Yeah.
people like me kind of didn't ever really fit into that category of, because like it's like the Farfafini thing. Like there are people who are born at the extreme ends of the bell curve,
Yeah.
don't fit naturally into those roles,
Yep.
where and people now kind of scoff at me, like serfs will scoff at me, but it's like for my entire life up until the point that I transitioned, like I was just excluded from womanhood every day, like pretty
Yeah.
much in every way. Like my own mother was like, "Oh, you maybe have I thought you had an intersex condition when you were a kid." Like, like there are reinforcement things that happen, and the West doesn't really have a place for that. So there are people
No.
like me that
Yeah.
have been caught up into this as well. I think a lot of the initial lesbians that transitioned because of excessive gender nonconformity. There's something about that as well, where it's like it's not just gender criticals talk about sex as a biological and male and female roles as biology only, and it's like it's not just that. Like
Yeah.
you can make yourself less actively a man, and you can actively make yourself less actively a woman at the same time. And there are,
Yeah. 100%.
like random individuals that just don't fit those roles, like the HSTS trans women, like Blair White. Like she's had a lot of facial work done, so she passes a lot better now than she did when she was first transitioning. Um, but you like there was a trans woman that I met when I was in my early 20s, and we were hanging out for as a group for like a couple of months before I realized that she was a gay boy. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you just could not tell, like, absolutely couldn't tell at all that this, like, was a gay boy because he looked exactly like a woman, and half the group had no idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's kind of something around that as well that I haven't quite figured out.
Again, it comes back to how you handle marginality, because Christianity accepted fundamentally an Enlightenment materialistic framework.
Hmm.
There's no place of marginality.
Yeah, like if I'd been born in the 15th century, I would have been like some
A
nun,
none.
something
Yeah,
like that. Like Mother
100%,
Superior,
100%.
some intellectual kind of like
Exactly.
like
Yep.
there used to be roles for that
Yes.
in like because I'm not saying just because you're super gender non-conforming means you should transition. Like I'm not
No.
saying that at all, but I kind of understand why people in that position would, having done it myself. Um, but there is no role for that.
Yeah, because again, and we eliminated that, but it's because of our framework. And the other thing, look, I know this is obtuse, and maybe you're not in a position to comment on it, but one of the was us and the Orthodox, we love the Theotokos, Mother Mary, and she's a big part of my life. Like I have a deep veneration
Yeah,
of the Theotokos. The Protestants,
don't.
they they don't. They're dismissive. It's like, oh, you worship Mary. So no, we don't. We venerate it. And I don't know how many times I've explained it to these thick-skulled evangelicals and Protestants that we do not worship Mary, that all worship goes to God, but
Yeah,
we venerate her as that which, because like if you think of, the Trinitarian idea, so you've got infinite, the Father infinite made himself finite in the world that he created through the Theotokos.
yeah.
She's got to have an important role. And it's
Christianity,
like,
yeah,
if you
Christianity.
don't have Mary, you haven't got Christianity.
Yeah,
And you can't. If you don't venerate Mary, you
you're
you
missing.
don't know how to treat women.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't get it.
yeah. Tactically, like because Christianity is very top heavy in the male realm.
Hmm.
So without Mary,
You got nothing.
like you're not speaking to it. Like you also need to like this. I was talking to Darlene about this. Um, Modern women, because there are so many outright lies. Like basically, the history of woman has been rewritten deliberately, largely by the second waivers, but it started probably before,
Hmm.
where they go back as they updated editions, just bits of history were left out deliberately. Um, so women at this point, like if you see women talking about like some of her things, because she's like, you know, I'm 61, I believed all the feminist stuff, I followed the feminist stuff, turns out not a good idea, which there are now, like that story is going to become really popular over and over. Like lots and lots of women are making that realization, and it's not so much that they're whinging about it as they are filling their proper maternal role of warning younger women, listen, like it looks good now,
Don't do this.
don't like have kids early. By the time you're 40, kids will be out of the house. You'll
Yeah.
be able to have like a second innings. Like
Yeah.
you'll come into yourself in your 40s, which is prime time for females anyway. You kind of get past the stuff of like the insecurities of your youth. A woman's like,
You're
yeah,
authentic
you know who
self.
you are. You've got a solid base. You've built up like your empire is mostly built up like your familial empire. You've got money behind you. You can make
You've bossed a man around.
yeah. You can go back to school. You can start. You can move
You've
into
bossed.
like you just it is the power where women start to become really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, but there is no guidebook for how to be a good woman in the modern world. You know, so Mary becomes really, really, really like she always has been, but she becomes even more important in this age because even in my grandmother's age, there was still matriarchal
Oh yeah.
roles for women to go. That's that's what it looks like to be
I won.
an adult woman. That doesn't exist anymore.
I know. Well, and
Very
it sounds like all the metrics are being a man.
yeah,
Like no wonder, and their men are letting them down and treating them like shit and sex objects. Like men treat women like sex objects, and that. But see, like to give ourselves a degree of, like again, it's pathetic, but like we were handed that apple by women.
yeah,
Like feminism is a thing. It's like you handed us the apple. It's like we ate it, and
yeah,
again, we just get to have the sex and treat you like sex objects, and
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I actually think that it's really like part of like the Constitution thing. Like I think conservatives and Christians need to wade into like if they want to have any hope of this not turning into a major shit show, they need to stop trying to debunk the libtards and actually walk into like enter into the cultural war space and start educating and start actually fighting their corner and spelling out why like conserving traditions is the right thing to do. Like there are so
I,
many.
I agree, but I don't think it should be in a political sense. I don't think the
Well, no, in a
political sphere
cultural.
is the answer to that. I think it's living our lives. I think it's turning up to church. I think it's loving my wife. I think it's raising daughters
Yeah,
who don't have dad issues.
like I kind of think like there are like Charlie Kirk was doing an excellent job.
Oh, that's why he was killed. 100%.
Yeah, but there needs to be a lot more of that. Like you know, like Australians finding out why our constitution was set out the way it is, so
Yeah,
that our country would work in a certain way. Because if you give the government too much power, that means they have ultimate control over your life.
yeah,
While you might agree with that in the main, there will be, you know, like what if they decide suddenly that abortion is off the table or on the table or, you know, like, and it's something
yeah,
that you really disagree with, you're fucked. Like, you know, I,
yeah.
I kind of think that conservatives need to start spelling out why they are,
This is who we are. This is what we believe. This is why we believe
why
it.
it works. Like you have the amount of gay men and even like trans people now that are saying they're conservative.
I know. I know
You know
all
what?
these.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's an oxymoron. You can't be. Are you like if you're a gay man who believes in gay marriage or doesn't believe in gay marriage or whatever? Like, how are you? What traditions are you conserving? Exactly.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, I'm sorry, that's oxymoronic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I've bumped into a lot of that, and I've like at first I accepted it, but the more I kind of
It
researched,
concerns me, mate.
that doesn't those two things don't go together. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I don't mind people being gay conservatives. I mean, hey, great, vote Tory. But like,
Well,
it's,
people don't like people can kind of see it, but they don't necessarily understand it, and they don't understand the principles. Like, and I don't necessarily understand. I'm figuring it out as I go along, but I can definitely see that people aren't following the principles of why we should be doing the things that we should be doing. Like,
yeah.
they just don't
There's
get.
a reason that fence was built by your ancestors.
Yeah,
There's a reason they built that fence there.